Welcome in, everybody, to another edition of Major Push Wrestling, where we give wrestling the major push that it deserves. I'm your host, Gino, and I'm joined by C-Rod. C-Rod, how you doing?
Doing well, brother. Glad to be here on the heels of my boy, The Vision, losing his angle. I know we're talking John Cena today, but I'm mourning him in presence.
Absolutely. So we are recording this on Tuesday. The episode will be up on Wednesday. So keep your eyes peeled for that, guys. And let's just get right into it. Today's episode, we are going to talk about the John Cena retirement tour, but more specifically, his heel turn and why I think it worked. And we'll hear what C-Rod thinks about if it worked or whether it didn't work when we throw it over to him. So, when I am talking about why the heel turn worked, I'm talking about in its totality, not just the incident with Cody Rhodes at Elimination Chamber and The Rock. So, I'm going to get right into it. As it stands right now on October 14th, we no longer have fans chanting John Cena sucks. John Cena sucks, along with his theme song. Instead, they are singing his theme song like they do with all the other people that they respect. We are getting no more "you can't wrestle" chants at him when he's talking, which is another thing that I don't think anybody else was getting those types of chants for the last 10 years or whatever. So we don't have that. Now that he is a face, we're getting better matches, if not the best matches he's ever put on. Another point I want to make is that there's no more what ifs. There's no more we should turn Cena heel. There's no more of any of that. There's just we're going to enjoy John Cena as a face for the remainder of his run. In fact, you shouldn't even really enjoy a heel run. A good heel makes you actively dislike what they're doing. And you could argue, and I think C-Rod might argue, that what he did when he was a heel was unenjoyable. This also led to two matches with different dichotomies. Cena versus Orton, where Cena's the heel and Orton's the face. Never had that. And then same thing with Punk when Punk was the face and Cena was the heel. Never had that. On top of all of that, it was shown that heel Cena doesn't put people over, but face Cena does. Despite everybody online for the last 15 years or 20 years, however long the people have been online complaining about wrestling, they think he buries people. Listen, you can't be a 17-time champion without losing the title at least 16 times. We know he's lost it 17 to this point. So he's obviously putting somebody over in those matches, whether you guys want to believe it or not. Now, the thing that really comes up to me is I think this was all intentional. Yeah, we had the WWE Unreal segment where he's like, we'd have to mess up pretty bad for people to not like this. And everybody jumped down. They're jumping down Triple H's throat and they jumped down Cena's throat because we were still in the middle of his heel turn when that show came out. And they're like, well, you did the worst possible like heel run ever. You know, people were comparing it to how much they enjoyed and loved the cheer for heel Hogan. They were comparing it to how they love to cheer heel Rock and things like that. Like to me, call me old school, but a heel isn't supposed to get cheered. They're supposed to be booed, and you're supposed to dislike what they're doing. So now we're getting Cena as a face again with all of these things. People are appreciating him now instead of bemoaning him. It's like Kobe's final run in the NBA. We all knew it was his final year. So fans were going not to support their team, but to support Kobe. Nobody was booing him. People were appreciating him, even in Boston. Yeah, you heard that right, internet. Even in Boston. So we have things where people in Chicago, Philadelphia, New York, these big Toronto, these big wrestling communities are chanting "Thank you, Cena." They frankly didn't appreciate him while he was there. He was not appreciated to the way that I feel like he should have been. Obviously, I'm biased. Cena was my camp counselor. I'm from West Newbury, Massachusetts, friends with his family. So obviously, I am dedicated and committed to being a fan of Cena no matter what. But I do believe, as poorly booked and as disgruntled as anybody may have the right to be at what was going on during his heel turn, and I forgot to mention, we got heel Cena versus face Cena in R-Truth versus John Cena at Saturday night's main event, where I got this shirt. So even that was something we would have never gotten. So that was great. But you had all these people who didn't appreciate him, and now they see the light. They've come to Jesus. They've finally drank that Kool-Aid. I hate these negative metaphors, but they drank the Kool-Aid on what Cena's giving. People used to hate on him for the 5 moves of doom. He's really not doing those as much anymore, right? But that worked, whether people want to admit it or not, because when he went heel, he was wrestling very heelish moves, very, very ground and pound, very close quarters, not exciting. And people were mad that the matches weren't good. Well, he didn't do the 5 moves of doom, and now you're saying it's not good. It's like these people were never going to be happy unless he did something super extraordinary, but then there was going to make them cheer him. And Cena was not about to parlay basically getting booed as a face into getting cheered as a heel. He wasn't going to do that. He respects the business too much. Whether you like it or whether you don't like it, I'm not talking directly to you, C-Rod. I'm talking to the IWC, not the IWC Rod. And we're going to I welcome anybody to potentially prove me wrong, share your side. That's the best thing about wrestling is it's not super objective. It's mostly subjective. But from my point of view, between the no longer chanting that he sucks and he can't wrestle, that they're singing his theme song, they're no longer clamoring for him to go heel again. He's gotten better in the ring and he's delivered better performances all around, whether that was intentional or it wasn't. He was a disliked heel. We had 3 matches of him being a heel that led to a different dichotomy than we would have had if those matches were face versus face or face versus the usual heel in Orton, Punk, or R-Truth. And then we've shown that face Cena puts people over, whereas heel Cena never put anybody over. Not one time did anybody get put over and beat him in a match as a heel. And he was basically burying those people. I mean, they were super high profile, so it can't really be that buried. But I digress. So, C-Rod, that's my take on why I think the heel turn in its entirety as we stand from that Elimination Chamber to October 14th and beyond. What are your thoughts? Do you kind of see where I'm coming from? Do you have an alternative opinion? What do you feel about this?
Nope. I love you and I love your affinity to John Cena. You back him through and through, but the reality of it is the heel turn sucked. There was nothing right with it. You can sit here and say that he put people over, but CM Punk, AJ Styles, Cody Rhodes, Randy Orton, they don't need to be put over. There's nothing to put them over, right? He's not wrestling Braun Breaker, Dominic Mysterio, right? He's not wrestling the up and comers where if he was wrestling them, I'd love to see him put them over, right? Because that makes sense. They have a long way to go. They need their legacy to be cemented. None of the guys that he's wrestled need any of that. So whether John Cena wins or loses, I think is irrelevant in the matches that he's had because we want to see good matches. And I disagree with you know the heel notion that you have to boo the heel because if you look at Roman Reigns, right? He was respected, he was cheered even when he was a heel. When you look at Seth Rollins, some of his best work is when he's a heel. I prefer Seth Rollins to be a heel. He tried to come out and be a heel with the Vision, and everybody still sang his music to the point where they were like, you should change his intro to make him look like a heel because people still build him up and sing with him. Like you mentioned, Hogan, The Rock. It's Drew McIntyre is a great heel, and people like to see him wrestle. Gunther, heel, people like to see him wrestle. The thing is wrestling is scripted, right? So whether they're a heel or babyface, we can still cheer for them. And I think that heels have always been what drive people because, they're the badasses. They're out there causing havoc. Look at Brock Lesnar. People were still cheering for him even after his whole Vince situation. He comes back. Oh, Lesnar's back and just to squash Cena and ride off into the sunset. Where is he? I think there was a lot of missed here, and whether they say it's a marketing or they say it's this or that, I just think it was failed by WWE from the beginning because the heel turn was fantastic, right? It was a reset. Babyface for decades. Last year, let's do something different. Fantastic. Let's see it. Let's look at it evolve. But then we got the same promos like we've talked about before. There was no emotional payoff into this. He was just kind of going into matches with nothing happening, hating the crowd, saying that he was grumpy and they were mean to him. And here's the thing is before Elimination Chamber, he was not getting the "you can't wrestle" and "John Cena sucks" chant. That was the crowd playing into the heel turn because that's what we wanted to see. And although they were screaming, like WrestleMania when I was there, John Cena sucks, you can't wrestle. When the match was over, it was thank you, Cena. So you can still boo while respecting the body of work. But when you make that turn and you go into WrestleMania and you say, oh, he's giving a bad match because that's a heel turn. That's BS to me. You can give a great match and still be a heel. Now, if Cena chose to do that or not, we'll never know. If that was him. I honestly don't think that he was ring ready yet because of all of his movies. Like if you look at Cena now against Cody at SummerSlam, against AJ, he looks great. And I don't know if that has to do with him going from the race car movie or whatever it is with the car toys. What movie was he doing? He was doing a movie with car toys, whatever they're called. I don't know, little race cars. And then going into Peacemaker, maybe Peacemaker changed his physique, but he looks great. He looks the best he's ever had. He's having the best matches he's had all year. I don't think he was ring ready yet to have these matches back at the beginning of the year. I think he was still in between. He probably didn't have enough time to train. That's just me thinking. But the heel turn, could have been so much better. Maybe it's because he wasn't available. Maybe it's because, he was doing these movies. Who knows? There's no aftermath. He hasn't said a thing since losing the title. The title hasn't even come up. Brock Lesnar was thrown into storyline and squashed him. Not a single thing was said about Brock Lesnar after that. I fully believe that it was just to sell WrestlePalooza and their, shock value booking under TKO, like we've talked about. But I don't think any of it changes his legacy. I don't think any of it makes us appreciate him less. I just if they were going to go that route, and whether it was Triple H or The Rock who messed it up, or TKO or WWE, there's so many people you could blame. How many times did Triple H say, "Oh, we're gonna let Cena do what he wants"? Well, but then you're like backtracking and saying all of these other things. So I think it was a failure. I think the premise of it could have been great. I think there was rush booking. I think there was poor follow through, no aftermath, no emotional payoff, just to one day be like, "Oh, I'm face again. I love the fans again," and this disillusionment of, hey, you have to boo and hate a heel when he could have been a heel all the way through SummerSlam. Maybe they had him drop the belt because he wasn't going to travel to Australia for the champion versus championship match. Maybe, that makes sense. Maybe he wasn't available to be at Crown Jewel, so the belt had to be
But he
dropped. But
was at Crown Jewel, and he did wrestle AJ Styles at Crown Jewel.
oh, you're right. You're right. Yeah, no, you're right. I'm sorry. Well, then that makes no sense either. He was
I
at Crown
I
Jewel.
think that he dropped the title, and that made no sense to me because then Cody was written off of TV. So
Right.
obviously he's not making these decisions. It feels like ESPN and TKO are heavily hands in the pot, too many
Yep.
cooks in the kitchen. Um, I do feel like for any shortcomings with the turn, you can blame on not you don't blame Cena for that. Like we're
No,
blaming the
no,
booking and things like that, blaming The Rock
yeah,
for being absent, blaming
yeah.
Travis Scott for not knowing the business properly enough, those
I don't
types
blame
of
Cena
things.
whatsoever. I've enjoyed everything about Cena's last year just because he's present, right? The Rock was always about, oh, I'm present, I'm wrestling through and through, and after I still fully blame this whole thing on The Rock be, putting his hands in the pot, being there, getting Travis Scott involved, and then we haven't heard from him since. And he's kind of said that he's stepped away from wrestling, and people are like, "Oh, The Rock should come back to be Cena's last match, and there should be this and this, and Cody heel turn." No, in today's wrestling, I don't think The Rock has a place anymore. And I've enjoyed Cena's run fully. I've seen multiple matches, seen him in person. I think this is at the fault of WWE and TKO, whoever it might be, but nothing to blame Cena on.
Sure. So The Rock's movie made $6 million opening weekend, and you can blame that for on a bunch of different things. I do not think that's The Rock's fault. I think the subject matter, Mark Kerr being an abusive relationship, nobody, UFC fans don't even know who that guy is. So all of those things. And then it took a 70% drop the next weekend. And usually you only see that when a movie makes like $300 million opening weekend because then everybody's seen it the first weekend.
Yeah,
So the Rock is back in a situation now where it feels like he might have to come back to WWE, but his place is on the board. And I believe that I don't really want to talk and speculate about The Rock because as much as I'm still a Rock fan, him in WWE, I feel like he's taking more from the WWE than he's giving. And
yep. He's
I
burned a lot of.
hate Yeah, and I hate all CEOs and board members that take more than they give from the company and to the consumers. So that's
Yeah,
tough. But I do think because of that, we might potentially get to see him do something. If he does come back, then I don't want that to just be his final match. I'd rather him come out after Cena's final match and be like, "You're done when I say you're done. I'm your boss," and set up like a potentially him retiring at WrestleMania. Don't think that's going to happen. I trust Cena, so I just want to put that on the record. I do not think Cena's going to wrestle ever again
no,
after he's done. Everybody's talking about, but everybody's done it. Well, everybody isn't the lead in TV shows and movies, and everybody doesn't need the money. Yeah, Saudi Arabia might pay him, but he can just sell. I'll pay me the money and I'll come up here. I'll be the host or whatever. I don't see him breaking that because he's
no,
he's he's retiring not because he doesn't love the company and he's got more things. He's retiring because his body can't do it, and he's clearly giving everything. He's not leaving anything out in his tank. He is giving everything he has to us now, and I think part of my argument was that if we didn't have this heel turn, as bad as some people think it is, that we wouldn't be getting these banger matches. Cena's top five best matches, two of them have happened in the last 9 months.
yeah.
So it's
The
like,
AJ Styles match was fantastic. I completely
yeah,
forgot that was that crown jewel, anyways. But
it's okay, man. No, no worries, no worries. I just wanted like that would have been a good theory. My theory
yeah,
was that they just wanted Cody to have the belt for no reason, so he could go on talk shows and stuff like that because he wasn't on WWE TV, but Cena was every week. So to me, it didn't make any sense other than to prove to people that Cena will put over talent if they deserve it. He
yeah,
like and we did get some of those promos. They did feel rinse and repeat, and they were trying to save his dates because he's got all these dates, and you're trying to save it. You're not doing this, you're doing that. Um, but at the end of the day, I do feel like there's nobody talking about wanting to see him turn heel again, which would have put a black cloud over his entire thing. People are just going to be like, are they going to do it? Are they going to do it? They're not going to do
no.
it. Missed opportunity. So I want to take this time now before we sign off to ask you, what would you, and I'm kind of putting you on the spot, so I know it's difficult, and we're not the standard of excellence for wrestling booking, but if it's you have the turn happens, Travis Scott, The Rock, and stuff like that, or build to WrestleMania after Elimination Chamber, what would you maybe have liked to have seen?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I put me on the spot, but I have that answer. Like I would have loved to see, Cena backstage wreaking havoc instead of his rinse and repeat promos hating on the crowd. I would have liked to see him ruining matches, in the sense that, hey, he's coming out and he's attacking Randy Orton or he's attacking CM Punk or whatever that looks like, whoever is setting him up. There was that kind of play with R-Truth where he threw him through the table in the press conference, right? That was like one of the only ones that they actually set up in the way that you could see R-Truth wanting to fight him. And I would have liked to see him, maybe take that belt all the way to WrestlePalooza in the sense that he's like, oh, I'm the greatest heel in the world. I'm the GOAT. And Brock Lesnar's like, no, no, I'm the baddest MFer on the planet. You know what I'm saying? And then he comes in, squashes him, takes the belt. Maybe that makes a little bit more sense, knocks some sense into him, and he's like, well, you know what? Maybe I am babyface, or I don't know. And then Brock loses the belt to Cody, or Brock loses the belt to, Braun Breaker, or somebody else that moves the belt forward. And I would have liked to see more of a heel reaction other than I'm going to shut my mouth. I'm the best ever. I hate the crowd. You hate me. And you'll see me ruin wrestling by not wrestling or whatever it might be. But I would have loved that. I would have seen him come in, do the stuff with Punk and Randy and all of that, but just be more of a nuisance and not just be in the ring talking that he's hating the crowd. And I think the ultimate payoff for me would see, okay, use the squash in a way that Lesnar comes in, still looks like the baddest guy in WWE, takes the belt. Cena changes face, and maybe they wrestle again, and that's where he shows his face. And then he still has those last few months to do his matches against AJ Styles, and now they're saying maybe Seth or maybe Dom because they're going to be in San Diego, Sacramento. So who knows? But personally, I would have loved to see it that way. I know you probably
Sure.
don't agree with me at all, but how about yourself?
Well, okay, so if you're gonna, I was gonna let it slide, but since you opened the door, I would
Let's
say
go.
that then that forces us to have a second Brock Lesnar match where Cena gets his win back, and then it's for the title, and he's gonna get the title back, and then retire with the title as a good guy. And so they would have had to change a lot of the stuff along the way. And I honestly think that they didn't want Brock with the title. I think that there's still too much chatter, negativity. They
Yeah,
want like, and from what I understand, Cena chose to get squashed by Brock because he said, "Listen, I'm leaving. Brock's staying. Like, let's give
is he
some of
staying
this."
though? Where is he? Where?
Well, he will absolutely be involved with the build to WrestleMania, right? And that, I mean, Cody left, and we're going to talk tonight on the No DQ review, which will be yesterday when this video airs. But is Roman really gone again? Is Roman really leaving TV again? Like he comes back for one day and then he leaves. Like so, even the they don't WWE really doesn't have a lot of big stars. They do, but they don't. And at the end of the day, I'm yes, they could have done some things differently in the promos, changed his music and whatever. But he said as much. He didn't want to do that because that was going to make people cheer. The last thing Cena wanted after being a lifelong babyface, essentially getting booed for the 90% of that time, was to get cheered as a heel. He was, I guarantee that's what he like. If he had truly had his way, he was like, I'm going to do whatever I can to get booed
Yeah,
because he was it was going to be a challenge to him. And I think that that being now an actor and obviously one of the best wrestlers, whether you think when I say best wrestlers, people like to take that as the best in ring technician.
no,
And people come at my personal accounts saying you're a clown for thinking that Seth Rollins is one of the best wrestlers. Cody Rhodes one of the best wrestlers. Guys, they're the champions. That has to matter. That
all right,
makes you the best. Like that. It's not just the best in-ring technician, bro. Okay, great. He's got these people all over the world that are great, better in-ring technicians. But are they better in-ring storytellers? Are they better on? Are they also better on the mic? The
right.
whole the
Whole
whole
package.
spectrum of a superstar is what I'm talking about. And I truly believe that Cena is the best in that regard. I don't think wrestling would be here Roman Reigns kept it alive during the pandemic, absolutely, but he wouldn't have even had the chance. 2019, 2018 was some of the worst stuff WWE's ever done, and Cena really, I think that the whole breaking kayfabe reality era, Cena was the face for that. They had Orton, they had Edge, and things like that that they could have used, but nobody was buying Daniel Bryan and CM Punk as like larger than life superstars. I love them both, but nobody was buying that. Cena was Super Cena, whether you liked him or not, and that was what sold tickets. Still the most merch. The people came just to boo him, even though he was a face, and then people were coming just to see him. So again, in all, I've laid out my reasons why I believe that it worked. Could it have been done differently and better? I will not argue against that at all. Like there are definitely things that I was expecting from that didn't pay off. And that seems to be a TKO staple. I hesitate to blame Triple H for all this stuff because it seems like it's very in line with TKO more than it's in line with uh, Triple H's booking style. But I know he's the head of creative. But people think that he took Vince's entire job as CEO of the company and head of creative, but he didn't. He's just the head of creative. He's got a whole board. The Rock is his boss. And
Yeah.
so he still answers to people where Vince didn't. So I like to give Triple H the benefit of the doubt for sure. But there are trends that we talked about on the last video of how he's booking his champions. And I do feel like, for the most part, that is a
Yeah.
Triple H defect and not a TKO defect. So with that, guys,
Honestly,
no, go ahead.
oh, I was gonna say honestly, I think Triple H has to either reinvent himself or prove himself in this next WrestleMania run, or it's like if you fumble this WrestleMania run again and you fumble this next WrestleMania, maybe fingers start pointing at him more because then we start getting into this uncharted territory of next WrestleMania is going into Saudi, and we've already seen people be so negative about it. So if you give us two bad WrestleManias on our home turf in a row and then you leave us to go to Saudi, I could see it souring real quick. And that's that's the last thing I'll say. We'll see how it plays out, but I'm very intrigued to see what this next road looks like and what 2026 shows us.
Absolutely. So thank you so much. And most importantly, guys, everybody watching there on demand, let us know in the comment section what you think. Did it not work for you, but it's turns out at where we are now, it did work for you, kind of like me. Is it complete waste? Kind of like C-Rod is implying. Is there somewhere in the middle? Like, did you just love everything? No complaints? Whatever you guys think, jump in that comment section and let us know. We will be replying to all those comments, and we look forward to sharing that. We might even shout out a few of them on the next video. So remember, you can catch our videos here every Wednesday night at 8. We try to make them every Wednesday. Sometimes schedule changes and we'll keep up, but for the most part, every Wednesday at 8 p.m. And C-Rod, where can the people find you outside of that?
At Crods Pod on Instagram or YouTube, we talk about mental health, and pretty soon we'll be having. I have plans to bring you on as a guest, Gino, where we talk about mental health, and maybe we'll wrap a little bit of wrestling in. But that's at Crods Pod on Instagram.
Thank you, C-Rod. I appreciate you. And again, appreciate everybody for watching. You guys mean the world to us. We couldn't do this without you. We really enjoy being able to come on here and share our thoughts with wrestling and with you guys. So thank you so much and stay tuned. And as always, we'll catch you on the next one. Bye bye.